Blast me hearties and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I am your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is me skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey Mozz, welcome back aboard to another exciting episode of Agent Carter, Season 1, Episode 3, Time and the Tide, how appropriately named. As Agent Carter closes in on Howard Stark's stolen technology, Peggy's secret mission could unravel when the SSR arrests Jarvis and a secret is revealed. Our director this week is Scott Winant. Of course, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby get our written by or created by based on Marvel Comics by credits. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely get our created by credits this week. Andy Bushell gets our written by, and of course, our hardest working editor in show business this week is Eric Pearson, who did all the editing on this story. Okay, now this opens with a really fun misdirect, though I don't know quite how misdirected it really is. We see the gentleman skulking around the Griffith Hotel, the all-women's hotel, just like you would have seen in Bosom Buddies many years later. And this was a real thing. I think it may even still be a real thing. But, we see this gentleman very deftly shimmying up the drain pipe and coming to Agent Carter's room. And then as she draws her weapon, we see that it is, in fact, just a erstwhile paramour of one of her neighbors. And, for the scale at which he does that, you kind of got the impression that he had done that before. Yeah. But I think he would have known which room he was going to.
Right. He had a very a rock climber's movements.
Yeah. Well, they climbed rocks back in the 30s and the 40s. So...
Well, no, I'm not saying I'm surprised at that. I'm just surprised, that it definitely looked like he'd done it before, is all I was saying.
Yeah. No, but it's a nice, fun little bit that is that's our cold open. But then the next morning we have all the girls coming down and meeting, complaining about the eggs and,
Yeah.
That, the breakfast in this bed and breakfast is, not up to snuff. But then again, hey, what are you paying rent for? How much rent are you really paying in New York City, even in this day and age, rent control laws and whatnot. But we get our great little piece about Harry Houdini, which is delightful. That for all of the things he could escape and unlock, he could not ascend the stairs. And this is and what I love about this is you kind of get the feeling from the way some of the girls react that this is a story she tells a lot. And I get the feeling that it's a story that she does tell expressly when one of the girls is going to get kicked out for letting a man into the building. Because it dovetails nicely with that.
Yeah, I thought it was just because they had a new, tenant. But yeah, that makes sense too.
They only get the new tenant because, maybe. Well, yeah, actually I think so. They only get the new tenant because the other girl gets kicked out. I believe. I can't say that for 100% certain, but I do get the feeling that may be the case. Which, again, then raises this question, gee, isn't that lucky that another tenant just happened to show up? Now, maybe there's a waiting list, so all that. But it's like, guy breaks in, maybe has broken in a few times before, but this is the time he got caught. Just as this other person needs to come into the place.
Yes. So maybe she always has somebody on standby that she already has grounds to let go. And when a more suitable tenant shows up, guess we're going to act on the evidence I have.
Oh, that's an interesting read on it. Right. That, she's just waiting to kick people out. See, I would imagine... Here's what I'll say. The only reason I don't think that's the case is because when the other room was available, Angela mentions it to Carter like 3 times.
Right.
Before she actually concedes to go in for the interview.
Hmm.
Because, and I get the feeling that there is this quality of it where maybe it isn't, that's why I think it might be suspicious that this person shows up just as the other person gets kicked out, because that room was staying vacant for a period. The original room that Carter took was staying vacant for a period of time. And then, as soon as this occurs, suddenly there's a boarder right there ready who meets all the needs, even if she is a dancer. Yes. And just as a fun fact, that she's a dancer, that might be hinting at something. No spoilers, but Dottie Underwood. She does appear in future episodes. So. Yes. And to me, the first time I saw Dottie Underwood, I knew there was something up with Dottie. I don't know. Yeah. Just because they highlight her so. So I don't think to say something's up with Dottie.
And wasn't like the song playing in that moment "Watch Over You" as they are talking about her waitress friend?
Oh.
And then this woman comes walking in, and you're like, oh, that's really on the nose there, guys.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I didn't notice that, but good catch, Mozz. Yeah. We also have, but also the other advantage of the Houdini speech is the idea that nothing is impenetrable. Because she says it's more impenetrable than Fort Knox. Though obviously it wasn't, because the guy got in. She knows the guy got in. And this is where she gets the idea that, there must have been, so they work out how the items were stolen from Howard Stark's lab.
Right.
And it's interesting because before we get to that, we get to the fact that, of course, they have trace that this is Howard Stark's car, was at the Roxxon implosion, and they go and they pick up Jarvis, and they do have him come down, and this is one of these, you could argue maybe a big coincidence, Carter, she's never had her job,
Right.
They tolerate so much from this lady.
I guess, and I wonder why that is, because she walks in and he's like, work starts at 9 a.m. Is it just like a thing that she's known for, walking in whenever she wants, or do they expect so little of her, or is she just a totem pole to have there that they don't really have any real work for, that it's inconsequential whether she shows up on time or not?
I think that there is, because my basic thought is, because there is so much disdain for her, and they're not going to give her any work anyway.
Right.
That they mostly see her as the bumbling secretary, which is ridiculous, because obviously they know she's not.
Right.
Or maybe they figure that she's only there because in their mind she's, Cap's ex-girlfriend. You got to put her somewhere after the war, or something. I'm not quite sure where they're going with all of it, but I get the feeling.
Also, if she's not there, she's not in their hair.
This is true too. So maybe they don't notice it as much, and they don't care as much. And it is, this is government work. So she's got job security in that sense. But we do get what becomes a central idea in this, or not essential, but what's going to become important is Kaminsky wants to get the night off to take his girl to the opera.
Or to a show.
To a show, that's right. Wants to take his girl to the show, and the joke comes up, is that your wife or your girlfriend? Right. Which we later find out is, actually, he has a wife and his girlfriend and all these kinds of things. And this is one of the things. This is when they do take Jarvis downtown.
And he didn't have to go with them. He only went because it prevented them from finding Agent Carter. Because Because like he could have waited and said, yeah, go get your warrant and come back whenever you're ready. But I don't know. It seemed like he was too ready to go just to give her time to escape.
Well, I think that possibly it was also that he doesn't want them to get a warrant for the house.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And so if he goes willingly, they aren't going to get a warrant to search because, for what it's worth, Mr. Stark probably has things he does not want the SSR, roaming through. Doesn't want all of his stuff, boxed up while he's gone. But whatever the reason, he goes and he's in the interrogation room with what's his name? Thompson. And what I find it's one of these kind of or is that Dooley? No, that's Thompson. That's Thompson. Chad Michael Murray is Thompson. He is. We had seen the carrot and the stick earlier, which also suggests that right now, she's sitting there and she's seeing her friend Jarvis, about to, and she's probably very worried, is this going to be a stick? Although, in Thompson's defense, he very much is smarter than that. He is not going to just make this a, he knows where this guy's weakness is, and he also knows it's not, it is not, going to be breaking his knuckles.
Right.
But we also get, and it is weird because of course Carter has to play the ditzy girl here, which is the rough situation, she has to play the ditzy girl. She has to
be the Clark Kent.
Yeah.
So to speak.
She finds out that they do have the police report that he said he filed. And, that if they have that, we would have to let him go because that's what we haven't been able to find. Or they're saying they haven't been able to find it. And that's his story. And so they reveal that, Jarvis was put on trial for treason, or that he was accused of treason and got a dishonorable discharge during the war, which is obviously a very big black mark, and that, this is the kind of things that could come into with his immigration status. And basically, just to bring this into a little perspective, that idea of that threatening someone's immigration status and what a, toxic and terrifying thing that really is for people, and especially again for his wife, who he does not want to be, hurt in this entire conversation. We have essentially Carter again play the ditzy girl, come in interrupting Dooley while he, and it's one of these things where you again, you always have to ask, is Dooley seeing through this? Does he know, I know you're not that dumb, Carter? That's the question for me with Dooley. It's like, he's not going to accuse her of, being intentionally duplicitous, but I also don't think I do think that Dooley is savvy enough to know this woman, has been with SSR for a long time. Yes, she was, assigned to these, special projects, but, I think he's smart enough to know. I think he's read her file, if he is her superior, he has read her file. So he knows, like, if, in the worst case scenario, he knows there's that there's a lot of stuff redacted that he's not supposed to know about. So, clearly there is something here that I don't think he buys it. I think when she's doing these things, he knows she's intentionally screwing up their case, and perhaps he doesn't want to call her out on it because he's trusting her gut. Like,
I don't know. That seems like a stretch to me.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. When she has Jarvis get kicked out, do you really think if he wasn't trusting his gut at least a little, that the repercussions for her in that situation would not have been far more dire?
Well, because I don't know.
That's what I'm. And I'm not saying that he trusts her implicitly or that he's on her side. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's just that he understands she's a lot more capable than she's pretending to be, and that tells him that because she is more capable, two things. One is he has to be very cautious of her, but also that he has to make sure she doesn't get out of line, and so it's giving her this rope. Maybe she'll hang herself, or maybe she'll solve the case. Either way, I still got to take care of this. I think that Dooley is giving her cover for whatever reason. And I'll be honest, I haven't watched these all in a long time. Obviously, this is season 1, and
right.
I
read it as he knew she was right, and he wanted to do the legwork to possibly prove her wrong, or to run up this tree to see if there's something there. But he knew there was nothing there, and she just hastened the process, and he's just upset that he wasn't allowed. The control was taken away from him. But I think he knew that it was a fool's errand. But they had no lead, so he's like, "Let me run up this tree to see what I can shake loose."
He
was refusing.
Stark's,
yeah.
Because I would say they know Stark's involved. They know that essentially they know he was there. The car got stolen angle. It's an easy one to state, but it's also pretty weak sauce, because, as they say, stuff just has a bad habit of disappearing from Stark's mansion, cars, death ray, cars, bombs, death rays, and so, the death ray is in,
right, that's true,
is in New Mexico, which I also love, but which was,
so you think secretly he thinks she knows what she's doing?
I don't know if he thinks she knows what she's doing, or it's one of these, it's sort of like every grumpy boss of a loose cannon cop.
Right.
They do not like their methods.
But then if he was aware of her involvement, then how does he not put 2 and 2 together and think she's the reason that dude got shot?
And to put a fine point on it, that doesn't happen until the end of the episode.
Right, but if in this moment, before then, he has an inkling that she's involved, I think it would translate very easily in that moment to the thought happening to him that, hey, what if she's the one that, orchestrated this, or was the anonymous caller? She's been working in the shadow, the background of this thing, and moving things along at her discretion, clearly.
And that's actually one thing I want to get to, because it gets back to my criticism from the last episode when she erases the symbol. But what I will say on that, what I will say on that is, they may figure that, they called it in, she called it in. That does not mean she's associated with Kaminsky, and spoilers, Kaminsky's death. Because
they really make it to that point. Sousa makes that point. He goes, if this person didn't orchestrate this thing like a hit job, he would have called the cops. But he called us. Who the hell has?
But see, what I would say is that's why it's suspicious. Whoever called it in, I don't think that. I mean, and that's Sousa's thinking. That does not mean that that's Dooley's thinking. And that's sort of where it comes down to. Because for what it's worth, because Sousa, because Kaminsky's driving the guard,
right,
not
the
not the materials.
Right.
So the materials are still in SSR hands. What they're doing is this person is killing a witness. That does not require the person who called it in to have set it up. It's just suddenly suspicious that the person who called it in knew to, and really this was a failure on Peggy's fault. And this is again because what Peggy should have done is called the cops.
Right.
because, as they said, the SSR isn't in the phone book. So she wouldn't have had that number. But whoever had picked it up, but then again, whoever would have picked it up, whoever was holding the witness certainly would have gotten killed, regardless of who it was. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I don't think that was the hit to get rid of the witness.
Wasn't terribly avoidable.
Yeah, well, that was the hit to get rid of the witness, and whoever was driving the witness was going to get hit too.
Right.
Sousa will say, "Oh, it must have been a hit because they called it in," but that doesn't make sense. Then why did they called it in just to shoot Kaminsky? It's like, no, someone called it in because they wanted these things picked up. So obviously, and that's the thing. I'm certain Dooley can put that fact together.
That's true.
Whoever called it in wanted these things picked up, because if they just wanted to kill SSR agents, they didn't have to have all the stuff there.
Right.
What it is they got a witness and the stuff there, and we see. And to this extent, this is what is interesting about it, because there is this aspect where, of course, Carter wants the credit for recovering the stolen items. But, as Jarvis puts it, you're not going to get the credit. They're going to use this to tear you down.
Yeah.
Which, as much as you might want to say that he's gaslighting her, I don't think he is. I think he's being painfully honest. He knows who these SSR guys are. They are not above, their egos are not above destroying people's lives. And so I think from that perspective, yeah, it's like, you are going to, if you call this in, if you claim this win, you'll actually be hurting yourself. So, yeah, I think that was a smart move on Jarvis's part, and unfortunately, no, and the bad move on Carter's part, because this is the kind of stuff that was like, as an example, had she left that symbol was on the boat. Suddenly things could, it would have been something that other eyes would have been on. Someone might have seen the boat. There's all these things that could have happened with that knowledge out there. And so I think that was her first mistake. The second mistake was calling SSR instead of calling the cops.
Right.
Because the cops might have been able to call SSR.
Right.
But then again, there is this entire quality of it of who can you trust. Really. If you want to play Monday morning quarterback, I think maybe even Jarvis saying, of course, I've been looking for these items. These were stolen from Mr. Stark. I beat the heck out of this guy and we got the items back. And I realized that he must have floated them downstream. And I realized that, this boat was there and, as luck would have it, I found it, and he could have claimed that it was recovered. These did not go on the black market. And, but then again, he may not, except they wind up in SSR custody anyway. And these are literally the things that they are trying to keep out of SSR hands. These are literally the things that Stark does not want SSR or anyone else to get their hands on. So, on some level, this was kind of, this was a no-win situation. And yet they still managed to lose worse, I think, than they necessarily had to. But that's because it's only episode 3, and we've got a few more episodes of the series to go. Yeah. And now, what did you think about the person who kills Kaminsky?
Obviously, that's sort of, so they're saying it's a Hydra agent, obviously, right?
Well, we're going to assume it's Leviathan.
Leviathan, right.
Yes.
That's the precursor to Hydra.
No, Hydra. So,
or it's a offshoot, a smaller branch of Hydra.
They never really clear up if Leviathan has an association with Hydra.
Oh.
As I recall, I mean, well, actually, they do have.
Maybe I just assumed for some reason. Just sounds like it would be like.
Well, I mean, from what, like I said, I don't want to go too detailed on it because there's a lot that's going to be revealed later.
Gotcha.
But I get the feeling that, this is, this is something that deals with Russians. We are in the middle of the Cold War, and this, Leviathan could be something the Russians have that maybe, Operation Paperclip goes both ways. You bring some Hydra scientists. If the U.S. captures Hydra scientists, you may bring them on to our various projects. Same thing goes for Russian scientists captured by Russians. So there's I get the feeling it's one of these things where it's implied that this is a sister organization to Hydra, but is not explicit. And this is, for what it's worth, the Russian variation, because they have to put their own brand on it. Because unlike every other thing, I guess the Russians were smarter about branding. Well, they're communists, so you don't want to have that branding. You don't want to go into capitalist branding issues. But
right. Propaganda is very, very important to them. They're very well versed in it.
Whereas Hydra US, you got to have the Hydra logo on your coffee mug, got your Hydra hat, just like the SHIELD logo. It helps in being a secret spy organization if you just have a logo on everything. Okay. Oh goodness! Any final thoughts?
It's like
on
motorcycle club patches.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure they have like various ranks and whatnot. Because if you killed a guy for SHIELD, then you get this extra mark. You get your red wings and your gold wings and things of that nature. You get your teardrop tattoo. Okay. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozzie?
No, I think we covered it.
Okay. All right. So, Mozz, if people would like, well, actually, no. You know what? First off, let's take a moment to talk about how you're listening to this program, because you are probably listening to this program on substandard audio. And let me tell you, friends, you should go find yourself some tweaked audio headsets. Yes, tweaked audio headsets, the best headsets for listening to podcasts on the Capes and Lunatics and Southgate Media Network. Also, if you want to get those tweaked audio headsets, you know where you can buy things, Mozz? At Amazon. Amazon, yes. And if you just go down to the show notes, you're going to find a link to Amazon right there for your convenience. You can go there. You can buy your tweaked audio headsets. You can also buy Pod Life the book, which is a book about this wonderful mixed-up world we call podcasting that people enjoy, people love, and, people wonder why you would do this. This may not answer that question, but it'll at least tell you why some people did it. And, of course, if you got nothing else to do in this time, why don't you go and hunt a killer? Hunt a Killer is one of our many sponsors where they will send you interesting and confusing clues. Unlike Agent Carter, who will erase those clues so you never get them, Hunt a Killer will give you the clues to help you solve the crime. Anyway, Mozz, in the meantime, if anyone would like to talk to you about those things, how can they find you?
Oh, they can find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzoor, or email me at mozzmanzoor@gmail.com. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way where Mozz and Paz once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when I can stay awake for it, because it's on at 10 at night, and I'm an old man. But I did get like the last 15 minutes of it tweeted out, and yeah. But I'm going to try better next time, kids, I promise. Follow me on Twitter at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, you landlubbers, you've come and sailed around the Horn with us once again. Now you may disembark and go about your day, but be sure to come back next week for another episode of Full Stream Ahead. Arr.